How does this weekend's move alter the geopolitical landscape? Joining us now, Richard Haass. He is the president emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations. He is also senior counselor at Centerview Partners. And Richard, it's great to have you back on the program. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All right. So we've heard that commentary from President Trump about running the country. We've also heard Secretary of State Marco Rubio come out and basically say that this is about running policy around Venezuela. This is about continuing to implement this oil embargo and sort of use economic pressure. The term that I keep hearing is coercive diplomacy. What happens next?
I think the real question is to what extent is there a meeting of the minds between the successor leadership in Venezuela and the Trump administration? I mean, let's just take a step back for a second. Whatever else happened over the last few days, it wasn't regime change. It was simply leadership change. Mr. Maduro got shipped out. We now have his former vice president running things. And the question is there a meeting of the minds between, say, her and Marco Rubio on such things as American access to energy reserves, participation of American companies? Is there an understanding on drug trafficking, perhaps on Venezuelan support for Cuba and so forth? And if there is, my guess is the administration will simply work out a new relationship with this successor regime. And if there's not, then the administration faces some really difficult choices about what it's prepared to do and whether it's prepared to escalate pressure or escalate its involvement.
What is the read-through to the region as well as the rest of the world?
Much of the region is not, shall we say, wildly enthusiastic. There's deep and difficult memories about American interventionism throughout the hemisphere. I think countries like Cuba are obviously particularly worried, as they should be, and not a bad thing that they are, because again they've lost the potentially the subsidized support from Venezuela. I think other parts of the hemisphere like Mexico, Canada, slightly farther afield, Greenland are nervous. Colombia as well, about this America that seems prepared, shall we say, to act in an unshackled way, and they're wondering what it might mean for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus now on Iran, too, with protests there and some of the rhetoric that's come out of the U.S. regarding that country, and then obviously how that dovetails back into the broader global energy market story potentially, too.
Yeah, I think what you had on recently was about right. I think in the short run, there's almost no impact on what happens in Venezuela on the global energy market. You're talking about a country that's producing less than 1% of global oil output. It's going to take quite a while and a lot of money to move that needle. So I really don't think it's going to make a difference. There's so much surplus in global oil supplies. I think Iran is a more significant player. It produces over 3 million barrels a day, exports around 2 million barrels a day. So disruption there would have a bigger impact, particularly on China, which takes almost all of Iranian exports. I just think it's a little bit premature, though, to make any confident predictions about how things play out in Iran. We've seen protests before. The regime there has proven to be pretty resilient. And the real question is, if I'm wrong and the regime were to fall, which, again, in principle, I would welcome, the question is what takes its place? How long is there a period of disarray? And what does the successor look like? The idea that you'd have a bunch of people reading the Federalist Papers in Farsi, that's one possibility, but it also could be something rougher and messier.